Hey, it's Alice with Wonderland Speaks, and I'm here tonight. It is Friday, December 17th, and uh, I hope someone's going to join me. Of course, you never know with these. It's certainly a crapshoot. I didn't necessarily advertise, so you just never really know who's going to be able to join me, or I should say, who's going to be able to join us. There's no way to know. So I'm here. I am here. So, oh, hey. As I said, this is Alice at Wonderland Speaks. Please like, subscribe, and click the notification bell if you enjoy my content. Let's see. I hope that you're going to decide to join us tonight. It's Friday night. I certainly don't know who's in the mood to chat. I'm here. Let's see. I may have to adjust. I might be sitting up a little too high. Yeah. Let's see. I guess I would say today hasn't went necessarily like I thought it would go. Not that I actually had no idea. I did come to realize that being at the DMV yesterday took a little more out of me than I thought it did. Gee, do I have enough light going on? Let me adjust my lighting. Oh boy. I'm here. I'm adjusting my lighting. I guess there's no such thing as too much lighting when you are recording. So, of course, I want to. Oh, goodness, I'm getting a glare now. Yeah. Certainly want to make sure I have enough lighting. So, as I said, hi, Jazzy, how are you tonight? Hope everything's going well. We only touched on last night when we were talking. We only touched on your sick status in reference to how's your husband doing. You mentioned that he had a stroke. Did you want to talk about that at all? Right now there's nobody here but you and I, so if you wanted to. I'm good, and you? I'm fine. I am fine. I'm adjusting. I'm adjusting. Did you have a full day? I always consider after my birthday, it's sort of full swing, get into holiday mode because Christmas is next week. It's actually next week. So, I really don't know where the time goes. I just know that it definitely does fly. It absolutely flies. So I don't know. I do not know. I know I had excuse me. Today I had a lot of messages to respond to, greetings from people. Good, good. I'm glad. I'm glad. Now, what kind of weather do you have where you're at? Because I don't know if we talked about if you're northeast, south, or west. We're in, our nights are cold, our days are pleasant. So I am at this point really just trying to get, I have a pretty strict regimen of vitamins and proteins, shakes, and things that I try to get in during the course of a day. By the time I get it all in, the day is over because there's so much to consume. So that in itself makes it difficult for me to fit anything else in, like an alcoholic drink or something like that. I By the time I get in the protein shakes and the turmeric teas and smoothies and all this and the medications and the vitamins and whew, I almost have to fit a meal in. I haven't eaten today. I haven't had a chance yet. So, but the protein shake, fortunately, it has so many nutrients in it. And again, uh, for those onlookers who think, well, we know she's eating because she's extremely healthy. So, um, as we have come to know, the fact that a person is overweight is not always an indicator that they overeat. Uh, there are a lot of very thin, considered healthy looking people who are malnutritioned. So uh, there are all sorts of reasons, oftentimes, why people are overweight. I have noticed a change in what I eat over the past year. Nothing intentional. I've done nothing by way of sort of declaration that I'm doing something different. No, things just change. Hi, Venus. How are you today? I'm glad you guys have decided to join me. I really appreciate it. I certainly, I'm always hoping I'm not going to be here by myself. I thought, well, it's Friday night. I don't know how active it is, how many people have plans tonight, are planning to get out and about, or whatever the case may be. But the point is, they would decide I'm not going to be bothered with that. She's on some other plane. I don't want to. I don't want to. I don't want to go there. So, but the point is, you guys have decided to join. Um, Certainly, I want to. My goal is to get here on time. It is not to be late or run late or find myself sitting down in front of a screen. And if I were watching someone else and waiting for them to come on. So as I said, I'm absolutely here. Oh, okay. Okay. And the weather is pretty good. Oh, all right. Well, I don't know if you recall, I mentioned I'm actually from Ohio, so I absolutely know what kind of weather you have right now. Because I'm in constant contact with my family, so I do know what kind of weather you have. And because I grew up there, and I've got family in Michigan and as well as Ohio, and other parts of the east as well as the south and the southwest, and you know, kind of all over the place, like most of us. So yeah, yeah. Let's see. Do white men fetishize black women? Some of them do. They absolutely do. They do. Some of them. Now, I have found myself. There's been situations where uh, uh, s- some of the guys I met online that would, even though, of course, I would ask the question, but you're not going to always get the truth, like in any situation. But you kind of know right away by their demeanor or by their conversation, even though they told you one thing, in reality, their actions show you another. And again, that's true in any situation. So there certainly are some commonalities. Uh, Fetishizing, kind of in my mind, I think of someone who has a curiosity. Some would call natural. Oh, okay. Okay. I can never find parking in New York. But yeah, it's like I said, you can always tell right away. Uh when I say right away, I mean within the first 30 minutes that if you're in their presence, you can tell because they focus a lot on your appearance and your skin tone. They talk a lot about that real quick. They're kind of zoned in on it, uh, complimenting you on your skin. Oh, you're so beautiful, and that kind of stuff. And that's no matter what you say, no matter how you try to steer the conversation in another direction, they got one channel. And again, at that point, you have a decision to make. You know, one of the things I came to realize in those situations, I can make some comparisons, similarities, same but different. It's just like if I go out with a black man, and as a black woman, of course, we have uh, a sense of how black men think because we're black women. But does that mean we're going to know all the ins and out? Do I treat all men the same? No, I do not. No, no. When I meet a man, I don't care uh, what race he is. I have a clean slate. I do not carry over my baggage to someone else. When I meet men, I don't focus on a past relationship. We don't spend half the night talking about my ex was this or he did that or whatever the case may be. I don't do that. I want them to let me find out about them and vice versa. If during the course of the meeting or the conversation on the phone, whatever it is, however we're interacting, if I don't get a good sense of who that person is, and again, that's going to be different for everyone because everybody's skill set as far as how they get a comfort level, it's going to be different for everyone. Now, there are some people who feel like their their radar is completely off, or that they don't even have a radar when it comes to knowing who, what, when, and where. And that may be that very well may be. Certainly, um, your life experiences do play a major role in how you interact with people, whether it's male, female, or whatever the case may be. It absolutely does. But if you're a person who have always felt like I I don't know, I don't have a clue, then in a situation like that, you absolutely want to seek out someone who you might feel may have more of a heads up in that area than you do. And that's only if that's someone you trust, someone who you feel will give you good advice. If you find them to be sketchy, meaning I trust them but I don't, then maybe not. Maybe you're gonna have to step out on faith. Um, I'm not gonna sit here and say that I'm fearless, like I mentioned. I think it was yesterday. I'm not fearless. Um, it's true. They think you are someone different. Um, I'm not gonna do that. When I meet people, I have apprehension. Um, I have uh, I have a sense of people. Uh, for me, I feel it's natural. When I meet men, uh, again, when I meet white men, um, at this point in my journey, uh, when I meet a man, he's just a man at that point. Now, once we start to talk and it's determined that we want to get to know each other better or in a different environment, then all things come into play. In other words, my history, my life experiences, how I choose to interact with certain types of people. And that's different. It's just like the way I interact with my siblings is different from the way I interact with friends and vice versa. We act differently. We don't act the same with everybody. It's just like my relationships with people. My relationships with, I've got three sisters. My relationship with each one of them is different. I don't have the same relationship with all three. It's different because they're all different people. So the way we interact is differently. Yeah. So that same thing applies to everything. Let's see. They think you are someone different. I dated a high value white man and I worked at a hospital where we both worked. He was a doctor. He was amazing. I broke it off. Wow. Um, how long? And again, I've said this before. I know that we live in a different time, and there are certainly specifics that enter into that. For me, for example, when I moved here, I have I an internal clock, so to speak. I use terms when I date a guy right away. I'd say to him that the clock is ticking, and he'll look around like, "What clock?" And I'll say that I'll inform him that because of who I am and where I am in my journey, I'm not I'm not dating. I don't do long courtships. I have a lot of do's and don'ts, and I get all that out of the way. And now I want to know their intent. What is it they see when they see the two of us together? What is it they visualize? And if they just cut to the chase and they start talking about, like I said, if they've just got one channel, then depending on you and how you handle situations, that's going to have an impact on the end result. But in your case, I'm curious as to why you broke it off. And how long did you date when you made that decision? I, I told somebody recently, I said, in light of, let's see, he had a strong connection. Let's see, my birthday, October 17th. 17th, we were 30 years apart. No, he was not. He had a strong connection. We had a strong connection. Okay, so how long did the two of you date before you decided you wanted to break it off? Or was that, or did you go into it knowing ahead of time that you were only going to take it to a point and then that's where you were going to stop? Or do you feel at some point that that is a relationship that you could actually see a legitimate future with that person or someone like that person? I would imagine the age difference most certainly had to have somewhat of an impact, either on you or on him, even if it wasn't discussed. I personally have dated someone, as I've on, uh, who was much younger than me. Uh, he and I didn't talk about it. I talked about it. He never talked about it, but I did. I talked about it from the moment we met. Let's see, we dated 6 months. I really liked him. I actually manifested him. It honestly was me. I think I was intimidated. That's normal. That's normal. And again, certainly that's something. Was he older or younger? And again, I find that once I got what I felt was the scope or the lay of the land, so to speak, and in those situations, meaning my relationships with white men, when they fall in love, you have full disclosure. They want you to meet everybody. They're taking you where everybody is. They just, like I said, when they're in love, they want everybody to know, you know. So that can be scary. Accustomed to that kind of disclosure. I know life, and I've been married several times. Things were in stages. No matter how serious the two of us were, they were still in stages. So, um, and when you look at it that way, it kind of makes it difficult to plan when you don't have a full picture. Again, that's certainly something you can get past if that's your choice. 6 months, depending on um, 6 months, depending on various factors, meaning age, occupation, how much quality time you actually spend together. Let's see, these differences didn't matter. We clicked well, but I feel, unfortunately, that I couldn't figure him out, his intentions. We didn't reach the point he was in love because the relationship was brief. And see, that's the point I'm making. That's exactly the point I'm making. 6 months is just not a lot of time to really get to know uh, a person, depending on your age. Now, if he generally generally the person who is the senior, they're more inclined to be uh, more. And I'm not saying in every case, but they are more inclined to want to get to the point. In other words, they want to state their intent. Like in my case, I was older, so I was always about what's real. You know, he was always in love and always wanted to express himself, and I'm making light of that, and I shouldn't because he's extremely sensitive. But let's see. Really? Damn it. See, I intentionally switched my system. Last night I used my smartphone, and as you know, we had problems, even though I had the laptop as a backup. But I didn't even realize until today when I was watching it back that because of the way I had it set up, and you did mention you were getting me from the side, but it didn't register what that meant in my head. So for part of that video, I'm at a side angle. And it again, it didn't register when you said it, not until I saw it today. And I'm like, it makes perfect sense. Where is the camera? So, and I thought about that today as well. With where I live, I'm surrounded by all these mountains. It's going to be, I think, almost impossible. I don't know if there is a better time of day, not based on my experience with my internet here. I don't know if there is a better time of day that, because to me, this should be a better time of day because it's late night. But in my experience with this internet, my internet's not better late at night. Oftentimes, if I have the television on at 1 or 2 o'clock, it's worse, not better. So um, I don't know. I may have to try a different time, maybe, or possibly I will experiment with different times and see when I can get a better. I mean, because for example, back east, you're 3 hours ahead. So it's certainly much later there. I mean, here it's 12:30 at night, and I know it's 3:30 or 3:31 there. So, which oftentimes makes it difficult for me to communicate with my family because even after all this time that I've lived here, they still in their brain can't wrap around the time difference. Now, I, on the other hand, I'm very much aware when I call them what time it is. I'm very conscious of the time. I never call them. Now, here it may be 6 o'clock, but there it's 9 o'clock. Or like if I wanted to call them at 9, that's 12 o'clock at night. And for them, that's late. So I don't call them late. I have to either call them before like 6 o'clock in the evening or very early. So it just kind of depends. Let's see. He did open up to me and show me his valuable side. Dated. I never had to pay for anything. He is a CEO, and it's very hard for him to express. I broke up with him before he took me back. Well, depending, and again, 6 months is not a lot of time. Depending, like I said, and two, it depends. It sounds like the two of you were just starting to get serious, but not, there wasn't enough time invested for there to be a lasting impact because 6 months is just not that long. I mean, it is if you're really young, uh, like under 30, that's a long time because today's standards of what is considered a significant relationship is defined differently. But I'm old school, and I don't have long courtships. I don't have long engagements. When I meet men, I tell them my intent. If my intent is to get married, I tell them that I'm between husbands. They find that so funny. I said, "What's funny?" He said, "The fact that you could be so honest and say that you're between husbands." I said, "Well, but that's the truth. I have been married before. I plan to be married again. That's between husbands. I mean, that is the truth." He said, "Yeah, you're right. I know I'm right." So, so with that honesty, he has a decision to make. Either he can try to ride it out and hope that if his goal is not uh, a legitimate intent, you're going to know real quick. But if your goal is to marry that man, or at the very least have a serious relationship with him, I don't know if I've mentioned this, um, but I would imagine, but maybe not. The common denominator that I found in my most significant relationship with a white guy, which I've talked about, who, because he died this year, but we weren't in a relationship when he died. Our relationship was decades ago, but it was for 3 years. And he was in love first, but that could be said for most of my relationships. I'm a real hard cookie. But for some reason, men are attracted to that, and I can't explain that to you because I don't know. I don't know. I just know who I am. I was not the first, and that's, I think, to me that is a really good thing. Uh, but it was fun. I learned a lot. Well, I learned a different side of me at the very least because he could expose me to things that I hadn't done yet. It was interesting, and again, I certainly didn't. To take me places. Like I mentioned, one our first date was on his boat, and it was nighttime. You know, the water is glistening out by the docks and all that, this, that, and the other. And it was, he had this really large sense of humor. He was always kidding and making jokes, but he was also very sensitive. And he's trying to get me to get on this boat. So he's got my hand and he's pulling me towards the boat. And I said, he's laughing. And I said, "I don't know what you think's funny here. There's nothing funny here. I'm not getting on your boat." He said, "Oh, come on, come on. I'm not getting on your boat. There's nothing you could say or do that's getting me on that boat." I said, don't you know black folks don't get on boats? We laughed about that, but he knew what I meant. See, and that's one of the advantages to dating white men who know black history. Not because he was, as we see now, uh, white guys who try to act black. No, he was completely white. No, no, I don't mean it like that. I mean when we communicated, he understood what I meant. No, he didn't know black music. It's none of that stuff today. Those are not the white guys that I'm attracted to, or whom are attracted to me. Not those kind. The kind who are attempting to emulate. No, the white guys who I've had relationships with were just white guys. They were not. They didn't have this so-called, which I see now, swag. No, no, no. They were true to their own culture, just like the Spanish guy that I've been dating for almost 15 years. He's Spanish. I can't half understand what he says, and I tell him that all the time. He says, "If you wanted to learn Spanish, you would." I said, "You may have a point." He said, "You do everything you want to do." I said, "Well, maybe it's a good thing we don't uh, understand everything we say to each other." I do hear that the longer relationships sustain themselves because the two individuals don't. He said, "Why do you talk like that?" I said, What do you mean? Why do I talk like that? That's a fact. I don't make this stuff up. You know, talking a lot isn't all it's cracked up to be. Queen, I don't know if you left or not, but it sounds to me like you're having second thoughts about your decision to to that you broke up with this guy. I mean, in my mind, if you felt like, as I've said before, so much of this has to do with where you are in your life as far as your journey. Where I'm at, I'm a mature black woman. I've never been one for dragging it along. Okay, I at some point I realized in relationships, uh, people who are so optimistic, and again, my opinions are based on my life experiences, not necessarily that I experienced, but possibly I observed. As I said, most of the people in my family are married. So I don't come from a long line of single people. No, no, not at all. I come from a long group of married people. Generally, when I go somewhere, I'm usually the only single person. Not to imply that I've never taken a husband or a date with me, but generally, most of the people in my family have been married for decades. So I don't want anybody to feel like I come from this environment where I don't get it. My parents were married forever. Death do they part. That's how long they were married. Okay. They got married in 1936. So you do the math. Goodness, I don't regret dating him. I just don't know if I want to date out anymore. Too much comes with interracial dating. Really? Wow. For example, I'm not sure what you mean when you say too much. Did you know any other? Whether did you interact with any other couples like you? Were there any in your family? Uh, because see, in my family, um, we're kind of mixed bag in my family. On my mother's side, my mother's family is biracial. Not my mother, but they are a long line of black women. I used to want to move to Henderson. Oh, I see you right here. I am always amazed. Recently, I've noticed, I didn't even know it, that so many of the women that I follow on YouTube, they're right here, and I didn't even know it. I had no idea because I don't have to tell you. That's not something that we just talk about in every video. That, oh, I'm here in the back. Not people are not, it's not. You don't know that. You can, I mean, certainly if you watch all their videos, you can find out. But of course, I had no idea. But it's just ironic. But no, I'm just curious when you say there's too much baggage, and maybe I'm conditioned. I don't know. Uh, I've talked about people who I've known, uh, women and men, black men and women, who've had a lot of bad experiences with white people. So because of that, uh, they come with a different set of experiences that they bring into this. new type of situation they've involved themselves in. But I did research and was going to move there. Oh, I see. Well, like I've said before, I too, I too did a lot of research. I think it took me like 3 years from the time I first visited to my actual move. Because the first time I came, very excited. I think I stayed, I don't know how long I stayed, a week or so. Because, of course, I had a plane ticket and I had to switch it out because I extended my stay because my friend got ill and I couldn't leave her while she was sick. I mean, I could have, but I asked her, I said, you know, I'm scheduled to leave, but if you want me to stay, I will. So I stayed a little longer because of her, but then of course, I was living in Ohio at the time. So again, I was so fascinated. I was so fascinated with the whole experience. Everything about here was so exciting to me. I was like a 5 year old at Christmas the first time I came here because all I knew about it is what I had seen on TV. I hadn't actually seen it for myself. So, because I didn't know when I came to visit, it wasn't even in my mind about moving here. I was just coming to visit. The only thing that was in my mind at that time was I knew that I was going to transplant somewhere else, but I didn't know at that point where. But when I came out here, this was like no place I'd ever been. And it was just so exciting. So I visited, I went back home, and I couldn't get it out of my head. I came back for another visit, but I didn't stay with my friends. I stayed down on the strip. So that was a different, because I like to get different takes on the situation. And it, again, different. And at some point, I think within that next 6 months or so, I decided this is where I wanted to live. And so I started at that point making arrangements, meaning doing my research, determining what I would need to do to go forward. And there's nothing like having a plan, even though we know some of the best laid plans. But my point is, I had a plan, I stuck to it. I did have to make some adjustments in my plans because I had a situation. I was actually working. Uh, I don't know if I've mentioned, but I have a CDL and I was actually driving and I had an accident. Um, it was maybe November of that year. It wasn't quite winter yet, but I can't remember where I was, Oklahoma or somewhere. I'm not sure. Really? Well, you got to come. Um, I don't know what happened, but there I was going along, and I had just had a conversation with somebody else about the weather where they were because everything was fine where I was. And just like that, everything changed. And I had black ice, and my vehicle flipped over and slid. And all I could think about in my brain was, I'm going to slide off over a cliff. That's all I kept thinking about because the vehicle was just sliding. And I didn't know where it was going to land. I just knew it was over. I prayed, and then at some point the vehicle stopped and it had completely flipped over. And all I thought about, well, the vehicle flipping didn't kill me or the slide didn't kill me, but I'm probably going to freeze to death. That didn't happen either. Apparently, I did notice on that highway, because it wasn't an interstate, I was on a highway. But I remember passing uh, 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 a road truck, meaning it was late night and they were out putting salt on the highway. It was, where was I at? I'm trying to think. I was in, where was I at? Colorado, near Denver. I was in some little town, Lamont, Lamette. some little town in Colorado. I mean, really small town. Anyway, um, they were out salting. It wasn't long, maybe 20 minutes, and they showed up. So I got out of that with a concussion, but that was a life lesson for me. I was done after that. That was the moral of that story. I was done. I said, God brought me here for a reason. He did not deliver me from that close to death situation for me to just ignore what he's saying to me. I'm very much aware when he's communicating with me. So, no, I made a decision at that point where I was at as far as my money being right and all of that. That's where it had to stop. I had to go ahead and handle my business, and I did. I did not drive professionally again. Not ever, but not for a long time. Oh, let me see. I'm sorry. So I haven't some of these comments I haven't read. Let me get caught up. Uh, let's see. Let's see. Where am I at? Okay. I live in Chicago, but I did research and it's gonna move there. I fell asleep a little after Diana came in last night. Oh, okay. I grew up in, so I am exposed. I am attracted to. They have a certain class. Okay. I just don't like the stares you get. I never been in the back. Oh, okay. Well, I personally, Venus personally, for me, when I made the decision to cross over, I didn't care. That was a decision I made before I ever touched a white man. And I took everything into account. Trust me, I did. But at that moment, when I made the decision that I was going to do it, that was before I ever went in a place where I put myself on the market, so to speak. I had made that decision already that I wouldn't give a damn what anybody said or did. As long as he and I were straight, I didn't care. But I will tell you what, he was very observant. He was always paying attention to things like that. He'd say to me, those guys are over there watching us. I said, what guys? He said, those guys over there. I said, so you want to leave? He said, no, 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 I don't want to leave. I just wanted to let you know. Okay, okay. I said, but you do realize people stare. It doesn't necessarily have to do with the fact that I'm black and you're white. People do stare. Certainly you can go there and say that's the cause, but to me, you're inviting uh, a negative feeling that you may not even need because we were in an environment, to me, that I felt was a conducive environment. It was not predominantly, I would never do that. And I had that conversation with him. Don't put me in a situation. All I meant by saying was, don't take me somewhere where I'm going to be uncomfortable. Invite me somewhere where I'm going to be the only black person there. That's all. I'm not going to do it to you. Don't do it to me. We didn't have a problem with that. Because to be honest, most of the places I went to were predominantly white. I'm being totally honest. This is full disclosure. They were predominantly white, which is one of the reasons why they were more accessible to me, which I have talked about in my videos. As a woman, you have to put yourself in those places, if you want to meet them, you have to go where they go, you know? So it sounds to me like, and I get it, because after my first serious relationship, it was a point of no return. And that's why I speak so highly on it. I'm not talking out of my butt. The best men that I have had have been white. They just have. And as I've said before, there are a lot of things, a lot of reasons why I say that. It's not one thing. There's a lot of things. For me, when I'm with him, I have a sense of security on so many levels. Uh, I don't worry. Okay. I don't have that same feeling I had um in relationships with black men as far as, day-to-day life. I didn't have those worries. No. The only thing I had to worry about with him was we just, you know, how we were gonna, because we both had busy lives. It was just us making time for each other. We didn't have to be worried about, because when I really decided to go full fledged, my kids were adults, and as far as me having to explain my dating choices, I don't do that anyway. I'm not accountable to people. No one has ever challenged me on who I date. No, no one in my family. I mean, no one has ever, uh, no black man in my family has ever said anything to me about who I date. So, in that sense, I've never had to deal with that kind of stuff. I've never had to deal with people confronting me about my life choices like that. And again, I as I've said before, when I made that decision, I took all that into things that could possibly happen. And I made a conscious decision for me. And that's why I say in my videos, I'm not accountable to those people. And if they have a problem, that's not my problem. That's their problem. So, as far as our world, my husband, my white husband that I divorced, us getting a divorce had nothing to do with us being black and white. Nothing at all. That's not why we got a divorce. No. And you might say, well, how do you know? Because there were other issues. Just like in any, which is what I keep telling people. Black and white is not a 100% guarantee and you're going to have a great relationship. No, you can have other stuff that goes on, that can be deal breakers. As time has went on and I think about my past serious relationships, I'm more inclined to believe that I was just not. I should never have gotten married to anybody, and that's a woman who's been married several times. I say that now. I don't think I ever should have got married. I'm too independent. Yes, I love the company of a man, but I like for him to go home. No, I don't have to have him in bed with me every night. I don't, because I like my space. I do. That's why in the past year or so, with all this going on with the pandemic and the isolation, and I have thought about marriage. Uh, I did I lose you, Venus? Well, I hope you come back if if there's a Jazzy, are you still there? I know somebody's there. Um, for me, like I said, my head was clear when I made the decision to do it. So I didn't sit around thinking about, oh, is my sound still really bad? I see you said a little bit ago that the sound was bad. Did it get any better? Because see, on my end, I can't see that. Because on my end, my screen is clear, everything is fine. The only time I have an indication there's a problem when it comes across the screen and it'll say that there was a problem. But other than that, I don't know unless you guys say something. Is it how is it now? Can you hear me? I see I lost somebody else, but I still have some people there. I don't know who's there. Venus, are you still there? I'll say this to you, Venus. I don't know. Okay, sound is good. Great, great. I would say if you're considering or if you've thought in the past about the move, at the very least, give it a try. Just give it a try because I was actually in Chicago. Well, now, God, where does the time go? Was that this year? Last year. Um, I actually drove there from here. I purchased a car and I drove there to pick it up. Um, Not that I had never been to Chicago before, because I'm sure anybody who lives in the East, all those little neighboring states, you kind of have been there, you know, uh, over time, So yeah, I've been to Michigan, and I mean, I've been all over. Yeah, I've been all over. So yeah, but those Chicago winds are no joke at all. Um, but the further north Michigan you go, it's no joke either. So um, it's something to think about on all levels. But in reference to it and dating, just keep trying. Find the one who you feel really comfortable with and who makes you feel, because see, that's the biggest thing. They made me feel completely comfortable. So that meant I didn't have to do the work. I didn't have to do the work. He made me feel safe, secure, and I didn't have to worry about anything. I didn't worry about it. Even though, like I said before, my head was right when I got in it. So he never had to talk me down. I was never having some anxiety attack or, thinking about what people say. I never gave a damn about what people say. People don't want you to be happy. I don't care what they tell you. And I'm talking about family. They don't want you to be happy. They're miserable. So they want you to be miserable too. So you have to think about that as well. Mm-mm. Again, that's something I had to learn the hard way. People don't want you to be happy. Are they going to come right out and tell you that? No. But if you just reflect back on situations and different things that have occurred over time, you'll come to that all on your own. Yesterday was my birthday, so I'm a Sagittarian. We're independent. Yeah, we're extremely independent. I am true to my sign. I absolutely am. I am true to my sign. As I've said before, uh, early on when I was young, and I had, what's the word I want to use? I was insecure as a young woman. Hell, I was insecure as a mature woman. My security came more so um, when I got over 40. And I would say that's due in part because I started to know me better and come to really understand people. And because I'm a nice person, and I couldn't understand why people would just be nasty for no reason, or want you not to be happy, or try to sabotage you. I was struggling with all that kind of stuff, you know, within the family dynamic as well as friends. And I couldn't, even when people would tell me, I couldn't compute that. It didn't make sense to me. Why would people just for no reason? But something that has been pointed out to me by a much older man that comes back to haunt me, things that people have said to me over time. People do things just because. That's what they say. I don't necessarily believe it, because I happen to believe there's a reason for everything. It may not make sense to us, but that's the reason, just the same. But once you understand that, then we stop holding others responsible for our happiness and realize that that's all in our hands. And everybody's not going to agree with it. But I'm not calling a meeting. We're not having a staff meeting to discuss what my future should look like. Because when they're setting up, say you're the single one, and they want to. I can remember when I was going to get married to my second husband, and we decided rather quickly. There was no long courtship. I don't believe in them, but we had decided to get married. So I can remember being in the bridal shop with my sisters, and my one sister said, I mean, I had already picked out my dress, and this was not my first marriage, and all that. And she says, "Why don't you wait? Why don't you wait? Then you can take your time, and you can get a different dress." And now keep in mind, this is an individual who has no style, who is miserable, who's been in a loveless marriage. Now, these are not speculations that I have made. I don't describe other people's lives. I don't do that. I don't have enough time in the day to describe somebody else's. I'm focused on mine. That's all. I don't do that. This is how she describes her own relationship. And I don't do that. No, I don't have to. People do enough on their own. They absolutely don't need any help. They don't need any help. I always use the example. I can remember my oldest sister had children, and she used to always say these terrible things about her kids' dad. They were justified, but I always said to myself, if I had kids, I would never talk against their dad. I just wouldn't, because I know nobody benefits from that, certainly not the children. Or if there were situations where he wasn't making his child support, I wasn't gonna, not let him see his kids. So the time came, and my kids were growing up, and their dad wasn't there, but he was coming around. And he says, I can remember one incident when he came to the house. He was at my door. I think my kids were like 9 and 12. And he's standing there at the door like he's lost. And I didn't open up the door. It was summertime. I lived in the East. And he said, no, it was his mother who said I was saying things against her son. I said, me and his mother never got along. First of all, we never got along. But her son was no angel, not by any stretch. But she says that I was saying things against her son. I said, I don't have to say anything against your son. He does a bang up job all by himself. I don't have to sabotage him. Every time he makes plans with his kids that don't show up, what does that have to do with me? And the fact that he's not paying his child support the way he's supposed to. I don't tell the kids. I don't discuss that with them. I never did. Not even to this day. Have I ever talked to my kids about how their father paid the child support? We never had a conversation about him, ever. Not about, the kind of person he was, or if he paid his child. Never, ever, ever. No, I don't have to do anything. You do you, all by yourself. I don't have to say anything, and I don't. And that goes for everybody else. I don't have to say anything against people. Mm-mm. No. If I got any, as my mother would say, God rest her, people do enough damage all on their own. I don't have to say anything. And I don't. I don't. So that's just the way that is. But in reference to Nevada, uh, I have never wanted since I've lived here, and I've lived in other places. I've never wanted to live anywhere else since I've been here. And for some reason, time goes by really fast here. I don't know what it is. It just does. I don't know where the time goes, but it just often after you've been here a while, you actually forget that you actually live in this amazing place. But when you're driving through town at night and everything's all lit up, and it occurs to you at that moment, I live in Las Vegas. It's amazing. But yes, it truly is amazing. So yes, it now I'm not Chamber of Commerce. I'm not saying this town doesn't have issues, but I wouldn't want to live anywhere else. Um, I'm fortunate. I have not been one of those people who have fall victim to whatever the ills are of this town. No, that's not my problem. I'm not a gambler. Some people say, why would you move there if you don't gamble? Well, my biggest gamble is the fact that I live my life every day. That's a gamble because we never know. You can make all kind of plans, and it doesn't mean that they're going to happen the way you planned it. That's a gamble. So I don't need to go into the casinos and play the slots. Not that I haven't, but it's not something I do. You know, when I'm making plans, that's not in the plan. Because in my mind, I'm a practical person, and I know the odds are not with me; they're with the house. So, you know, I gamble with the realistic goal that the odds are that I won't win. So I never gamble more than I can afford to lose. Now, if I do happen to win, okay, but I don't gamble with any intent. Ooh, I want to win all this money. No, no. It's an amusement, and I see it as that. But and people have asked me to make videos about this town, and I haven't. I've not made one video specifically about living here. And I know there are millions of people who come here all the time who have no idea what it's like, especially black people. They have no idea what it is like to live here. I can share with you my experiences living here, what it was like for me when I got here in 2008. And like I said, it was like no place I'd ever been. No, I was different. I was just coming out of a relationship. My heart had been broken. I'm always between relationships. I was coming out of a relationship, and all I knew is I wanted it different. I wanted things to be different. And so as I drove all those miles to get here, um, and that was down south, which is where I was coming from here, um, I just knew I wanted different. And so I got here, and you have all these people who come here all the time with the intent of starting a life, but they have no plan. They have no plan at all. So many of them, they do fall victim. And a lot of them go back wounded, and they just go back home after a short period of time. But that's because they had no plan and they had no determination. And I say to people often, especially when I come in contact with new people, I say, don't be so hard on yourself. You have to keep in mind where you were, you've been there your whole life. You had a lifetime to establish relationships. So don't beat yourself up when you get here and everything doesn't fall into place in 6 months or a year. You have to allow yourself that time to nourish those relationships. Fortunately, the people who I know right now, I met them when I got here. I met them when I got here. Not to say I haven't met people since. I meet people all the time. It's just that the people that I have allowed in my life, I met them when I got here. So, and I know that's different for everyone, but for me and where I was at in my life, that worked out for me. Okay, where am I at here? Because I've just been going on and on. I grew up in suburbs, so I'm exposed. I get it. My parents, I grew up in an environment where now the high school I went to was predominantly black, but we had one couple uh, in high school that was a white guy and this black girl, and it was a small school. So this was ooh a very long time ago, and I just wasn't that used to it, not in that environment. Now, keep in mind, in my family, I have cousins that are first cousins that are white. I mean, really, they're white people. They're white. That's because the father was white, the mother was biracial. When you take that combination, you get a completely white looking person. Yeah. So that would be my mother's sister is biracial, and the man she had a baby with. Now, to give you a little background on that, that particular sister, well, actually, it was two of them, but that particular sister lived in Mississippi. The man she had this child with was a white man in Mississippi in let me see, this would have been the 60s. That's when she had that child. But because of the climate at that time in Mississippi, that child couldn't stay in Mississippi because he looked just like a little white boy. But his mother didn't look like a little white girl. So she made the decision, meaning his mother, my aunt, my mother's sister, made the decision to uh, send him to the north, which is, as you know, as a black person, that's what or how uh, black people described it back then when they lived in the South, going up north. And that's what they did. They sent that little white baby to the north, to Michigan, to live with my mother's other sister who had a family, a husband, and children. And she raised him. But he always knew who his mother was. But he lived in Michigan. He still lives in Michigan. He's my first cousin. So, as well as some others. Like I said, I have family in Michigan. So, uh, so yeah, I mean, it's a long. That's why I don't. There's so much about this whole thing that I don't understand because we're so all tangled up, and there's nothing we can do about it. We had nothing to do with the coming together. We're just the end result, trying to make the best of a situation. Uh, some would say, well, that doesn't mean because, you have to be with. No, I don't have to be with. It's a conscious choice that I've made. And why can't I make that? Why is it black women have to have so much dialogue with their choices? I don't see anybody having conversations with black men about their choices. None. Why are we the only ones who have to be accountable in this scenario? And I made a video about that too. Give me a break with all that craziness. Absolutely. Some of my best friends. I know that sounds like a cliche, but it's true. When I was a young woman in my first apartment, second apartment, uh, my best friends were all white girls. And we went to the white bars and we had the best times. I kid you not. And again, that was a different time. And I trusted them with them and have a good time, meaning I could drink as much, whatever I wanted. I never worried that harm was going to come to me or that they were going to allow harm to come to me. Never worried about that. Never, never worried about that because I knew that they were looking out for me. And there were many times that I drank too much, but I never worried about it. Never had to worry about it. I'm telling you, if you get a white friend, she got your back. She got your back. She will look out for you. And if you've never had one, you should try it. I can only speak to my own experience. And again, I can't talk about, I have no idea what it would be like now. Now, again, where I live at right now, to give you an example, I moved in this community. The movers unloaded me. And I think I talked about this. The only neighbor who showed up at my door, I don't think it was 20 minutes. If I didn't know better, I'd say they were looking out their window when the moving trucks left. Not my doorbell rang right after they left. And it was my neighbor, a white woman, knocked at my door, said to me, "Honey, I'm sure you're just moving in. You have no idea where anything is." She brought me a plate of food. She had something to drink. She said, "I'm sure you probably don't even know where your silverware is." I said, "You right. I don't." She brought silverware. She brought the meal. She brought dessert. She brought something to drink. She covered all the bases. And this was just, she didn't come in. She stood in the door. She said what she had to say. I thanked her. And a couple days later, I took her plate back. I, in turn, thanked her again. And I explained myself to her at that point, who I was, kind of person, what kind of neighbor that I am. I'm not a nosy neighbor. I'm not a neighbor who's at your door all the time. I said, but I do cook. And if you would like, when I cook, if you like, I can bring your plate. I don't, it's not engraved in stone. That's why I don't make an announcement that I cook. I'm saying to you that when I cook, I can bring you a plate. If you don't want it, that's fine too. But when I cook, I can absolutely bring you a plate. And she said, "Sure, you can bring me a plate." So we did that for like the first year that I lived here. She's the best neighbor that I could have ever had. And at some point, because I was never at home, I gave her a key to my apartment. For example, when packages were delivered, or just what, or if I was going to be out of town and I forgot I was going to be out of town, I'd ask her to pay my rent. Not that I'd borrow money, but because I had probably put the money order on the a refrigerator or something. All she had to do was use her key and go get it. And like I said, she was the best neighbor I could have ever had. And that's been recent. So that's the point I'm making. I wouldn't have trusted anybody else to do that. Yes, I have a few white girlfriends. They are very exactly. So you know exactly what I mean. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We did not visit often. And she just recently had to move for health reasons. And every year, I always remember holidays and things like that. Christmas, I always get her a big gift. You know, I get her a gift basket, put a gift card in with a bunch of stuff. On top of, normally I would do a lot of holiday baking and give her a big plate of that stuff. And she has a man, full-time man. He doesn't live with her, but he's at her house every day. So I would always make sure I put enough in there for him. But no, we were never neighbors who were at each other's house. I think too, as you get older, you do less and less of that. Doesn't mean you're not close, but you just don't do that. That's more when you're young that you do a lot of that. So yeah, she was the best neighbor I could have ever had. So I told her, I said, absolutely, I will absolutely miss not having you here. She said, well, I'll be around. And she started rattling off the address because he still lives in this area. But it's not like I'm going over there. I didn't come to her house, so I'm not going to go uh, over to Anne's house. There's two types of white girls. The first that's cool, and the first that have a. Fortunately, exactly, 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 exactly. I know exactly what you mean. Exactly. Yeah. I think again that's something you and again this goes back to what I was saying about describing white guys type that are attracted to me. Same with the white girls. None of them were trying to be black, but it made me think about this one girl. She was a neighbor. She had only been with black men. But see, if you ever saw her anywhere, you would never know that by her appearance. See, there are white girls out there, you can tell. You can tell because they have that influence all over 'em. It's in their demeanor, it's how they dress, because they try to look like black girls. None of these women that I'm talking about are like that. They are average looking white girls. The only thing I would say about this one girl was that she had beautiful nails. That was it. But as far as anything else in reference to her, no, no. She was an average looking white girl. Yeah. Now I had one white girl neighbor who she she was bougie. She thought she was better than everybody in the neighborhood. And for some reason she wanted to be friends with me. Uh we had nothing in common because I'm not bougie. I'm not. Uh, but she was one of those white girls who tried to like what I described. Yeah, she was like that. I just that to me that's not an attractive look, and that's just me. Let's see. Yeah, it's two types. Yeah, yeah. So I mean, I've even said now. Uh, I think I will have to find me a white girl who we have something in common, that because I still like to travel. Uh, my one thing is uh, the black women that I have come in contact with, that I have known even since I've lived here. Uh, we don't have anything in common. Some of them had their kids late, so they still have kids at home, so they have all that stuff to deal with. The drama that comes with having uh 19-year-olds at home. uh my kids been grown a long time. I don't have any of that stuff, so that's the only conversation that they have. Or if that's not the issue, then the other issue is they can't afford it. They can't afford to do it right now, maybe later, that kind of stuff. So, but I didn't turn my back on anybody because of that, because if that were the case, I couldn't sit here and talk about it now. So yes, I tried to be friends with them. We were friends, you know. I guess on some level I would say on some level I would say we are associates. It's very hard making. Tell me about it. I talked about that last night. I said when I was a young woman, friendships were pure. They were organic. They weren't complicated. As a young woman, we we If you met a girl and y'all, you like to go out, because when I was young, I went out a lot. We go out a lot. You come home. Uh, During the day, y'all might talk on the phone, or you might talk about what you're gonna wear. When you go out, or you talking about men. I mean, it's real simple. It ain't a lot that you talk about. Uh, you're not trying to solve world peace. None of that. It's just all very simple. Uh, but when people get older, and this 28 and my best friend. Oh, you so young. It goes real. Yes. When I was that age, and I can still recall, those were some of the best times because, like I said, those friendships were pure. Those white girls were, like I said, they were my best friends. We were neighbors for years. Uh, I mean, even when I talk about them, I smile because I remember, well, there was a lot of times, but I remember my one neighbor. She had three daughters, beautiful girls. Well, she was a pretty woman, though, too, but she was very insecure. She had been married very young, but she was still real young, but she was a little older than me because her kids were teenagers. Mine were still young. But I remember we had went out one night, and I'm assuming in all the excitement of trying to get to the club, I locked my keys in the house and I didn't know it. I had no idea I didn't have my key to the house until we got back home. And I needed to unlock my door. Now here it is, 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, and I can't get in my house. Now, that same scenario could have played out many ways, but I'll tell you what happened. This white girl at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, she went and woke up her oldest daughter, who never appreciated. And I don't have to tell, well, maybe uh, white girls raise their kids differently from black folks. Her daughter didn't appreciate being woke up, and she had no problem letting her mother know. This was in the 90s, but she had no problem letting her mother know. She didn't appreciate it, but she got up just the same. She made her daughter climb upstairs in the window because I always had one the window that was never locked, the bathroom window. She made her daughter climb up there, come in my apartment and get the key so that I could get in my apartment. I don't know anybody else who would have did it, but she did. But there are so many incidences. In other words, if you're talking about people proving their loyalty to another person, there's more incidences than I can count. There's just too many to count. You know, they were just, like I said, they were just always good. Would share anything they had. If they had, you had. And it was just like that. If we were struggling, everybody was struggling. But if somebody got something, everybody had something. And I used to love the Sunday dinners because the one girl had she had sort of an international crew. She dated guys from other countries. I was just getting into it, so uh, she knew quite because she was one of those kind of white girls, the kind that all men are attracted to. That was the kind of white girl she was, and they were all attracted to her. So she knew all these guys. So on Sundays, she would have these dinners. And I remember one in particular. She was dating, I think, Arabs. I'm not positive. Might have been Iranians. I'm not sure. But she had this Sunday dinner where she put this um, newspaper on the floor. We were all sitting on the floor. Not because we had to, but this was the culture. And when you're in Rome, she put this newspaper on the floor, and she had cooked rice, and I don't remember what it was, but we were all sitting on the floor eating with our fingers, and not because we had to, but because That's what it was, you know. It was about me as somebody who didn't know what was going on, experiencing the uh, the experience. That's all, and it was interesting. No, I've not done that again. I have no need to sit on the floor and eat with my finger. Now, I no, I did do it, but I was actually on a date at the Excalibur. We went to the, you know how they do the jousting show they have there, where you go in there and they have the big turkey leg, thing, and they bring this the plates out that are steel or something, very primitive. Anyway, you were supposed to use your fingers to eat to get the experience. I said, "Excuse me, can you bring me some utensils?" I'm not eating with my fingers. This is not 16th century. I'm in Las Vegas casino. Give me some silverware. So yes, yes. But I think you should always want to experience something, especially when you talk about other cultures, at least once. That's how you uh, gain your knowledge about different things through the experience. Not that you got to experience everything, but you want to experience something. Let's see. And my best. So yeah, like I said, I would sum it up. So Venus, in reference to what you shared with me, I it all makes sense now. Just based on the last paragraph, it all make that's why I said, certain decisions we make are based on where we're at in our journey. And so it's understandable at 28 why you did that. Yeah, it's understandable. But I believe that based on that experience, I believe you'll come back for more, even if that, because you do know that when people break up or have those little breakups, things are never the same when you go back. I don't care if it's a short breakup. Every time you leave, it's going to be different every time. The dynamic's going to change, meaning whatever you may have to barter with, because in relationships, we have what is called a bartering system, meaning it's an exchange of things, goods and services, as they say, which is the definition of bartering. And that's what you do in relationships. Um, as a mature woman, I no longer have my youth to barter. That's just a off the tops example. I have other things to barter though. You being a young woman, you have lots to barter with. The thing is, most young women don't realize they do. And I'm no exception. When I was 28, I didn't know I had anything to barter either, other than if he only wanted sex or not. You know, I didn't know. I didn't know my value. Hopefully, it doesn't take the average 20-year-old 40 years to realize she has all kind of value. All kinds, you know. I think it's important to remember when you decide to get involved with someone from another culture, you have the upper hand and you don't know it, but you do. Because he wanted you more than you wanted him. Those two things are never on the same level. Never. Never. Two people never want each other the same way. There's going to be one a little off. One wants one more than the other. Whether it's through fault of your own or just the way that it is, two people rarely feel the same at the same time. I don't care how intense it is. It is never the same at the same. no matter what two people say. Okay, what do I see here? I have none. I'm in need. And I'm agreeing with you, Venus. Father will not accept him if I go. He has to be around my age. So many men like me, but yes, I am aware I will not be young forever. Well, when I was your age, I didn't think like that. I thought I would be. I'm from a different time. We didn't realize the value that youth had. That's only when you get older you realize how much value there is in youth. All you have to do is turn your TV on. Don't you ever wonder why, when you look on your local weather station, and this is just off the top of my head, why when you look at your local TV station on your news outlets, and you can see the progression of men on as anchors and weather people and what have you. You see the progression. You see them age on there. But women catch hell on networks as they age. Even if they can manage to maintain a certain level. I mean, we can count on one hand how many women have even had any success on networks as they have gotten older. I mean, even Oprah was smart enough to get out while she was still young. And when she retired, everybody was like, why is she, and she wasn't on a news network. I just use news because, when I was growing up, you didn't see any older women on an anchor desk. You don't see too many now. See, yeah, my parents are from down south, as I've mentioned, from Mississippi. Their opinions are certainly different, but we never had a conversation. Now, I will say, um, because this is something that has been a part of my life, my whole life, um, white people have always been a part of my life on a personal level. My parents, their best friends were white. Uh, Now, my father, on an individual level, the people he really kicked it with were guys in the neighborhood, which were black. But the people who came to the house to visit, who were couples, they were white, unless they were relatives. But even so, I know that played a major part. That was the environment I grew up in. My We always had white people at our house. I never thought anything about it. They always had friends that were white. Now, on a personal level, my mother never had like a white woman that was a girlfriend of hers. They were all black women. But as I talked about, as it turned out, she couldn't trust them, even though she tried, but, they were scandalous. And these were all women who had husbands. Who knew? You know, I don't actually sit around trying to, not at this point, trying to understand my parents' relationship. I used to, but like I said, the realization I came to a long time ago that there was something not quite right about that whole dynamic. Don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure out. You got the woman over here, because my mother was a housewife, but mama had to do everything. Daddy worked. Mama had to do everything else. She did everything. She had to take care of us. That was back when you made lunches and she cooked and cleaned. She had to do all the working outside. We had a big old 5 acres in the back because I grew up in the country. The only part of that daddy did was he hired somebody to plow the field. But the planting and all of that, Mama did all of that. All the what did he do? He worked Monday through Friday, and on the weekend he kicked it. She went to church on Sunday. She read her Bible every day. See, that's why men marry women like that. See, that's why. Meanwhile, she's unfulfilled. You know she unfulfilled. She was pregnant every year. I always knew that was not going to be my life. So many men like me, but yes. How old is your father? He in his 50s? My daddy never said anything about that because see, before I did it, I had other siblings that did it that were older than me. The first time my brother, because I got 7 brothers, the first time my brother brought home a woman, because he had never brought home a woman, she was white. Omarosa would not be known if it wasn't for her friendship with Donald Trump. You said it. You said it. Oh yeah, there's all sorts of advantages to a black woman hooking up with a white man. All sorts. Yep. I think about well, I can't remember the name of that movie. I talked about it the other night. The movie with Shania Latham, where she plays this executive, and her gardener. No, he's not gardener. He's a landscaper. It's this very attractive white guy, um, who she thinks is just a. He may as well have been a garbage man because she was bougie, and she was attracted to him, but she was fighting. You know, she was thinking about her family, just like you, because she is from your demographic. She was concerned about all those things. Now, all her friends were just average women. You know, I guess if you were going to describe it, she would be the one who had the come up. She was the one who, because she worked in an office, she had a high powered job. Oh, see, your dad is real young, a vegetarian. I bet he does. I bet he does. And not only that, his age group right now is going through a lot, socially speaking, because the black men from his age group, they're struggling with a lot. A lot of it's they brought on themselves, and I don't know your father, but a lot of that they brought on themselves. So many of them have not been in the home. And again, I don't know your father, but a lot of them have not been in the home. They've not been in the community. And the black women have been left to fend for themselves. And so the ones who are doing good struggle with trying to uh, bear the brunt of all the ills of the community slash culture. Most of them don't even try. They just do themselves, and in other words, they're not bearing the responsibility for the demise, as so many people like to say, responsible for the community. So it's complicated, but it's not complicated. If that makes any sense at all. It goes back to what I was saying the other night about a guy who felt the need to leave me 2 big long comments. And I read it and I smirked as I read it because I kind of had been waiting on it. You don't talk about black men as a black woman and not expect some backlash. It's gonna come. It is absolutely gonna come, you know, because how dare we talk about a black man? And you know what I say to that? Bring it. Bring it. I want you to say something to me. Why? Because I'm a black woman of a particular age, because I'm older than your father, who had two children with a man who I had to primarily raise by myself. Now, some people say, well, you had family. Yes, I did. I had the support of his family and of my family. But kids need their father. And for the most part, he was not there for his son or his daughter. I'm not saying never, ever. Yeah, he was there sometime, because I will say it is a little different now than it was then. Even back then, they were involved some, but it was not enough. Okay, it was not enough. So because of that, um, they just basically, in my opinion, they have not stepped up. They have not stepped up. And you, as I said, you don't have to take my word. Statistics bear that out. You don't have to listen to anything I say. You know, black men have always, in my mind, kind of in reference to what I'm talking about, which is the community and the children, uh, they've gotten a pass on that. Now, when you see kids out there cutting up on a YouTube video, you don't hear anybody say, where's the father? No, what do you hear them say? Where's their mother? Where's the mother? Where's the mother? Women don't make babies by themselves, but you don't hear them say, where are the parents? They say, where's the mother? Because the father's absent. You know? So I'm not angry about it. My kids are grown. My daughter is almost your father's age. My daughter is 48. Okay, so trust me, I know, I get it, and I have no anger against black men. I love black men. Some of my best friends are black men, and we have these conversations. But fortunately, the black men I know now, they have all been full-time dads. That's the ironic thing about it. That's why we can have these healthy conversations. See, if they were those guys, we wouldn't be able to talk about it because they'd be too sensitive. But because they are not those guys, we can talk about it. And they don't deny that there's been problems. There are problems in the black community. Yeah. But yeah, that term you just used, black women in the community. Oh yeah, I think about in that long diatribe that I had to hear from this guy about it being a sin for black women to get in the bed with white men. I'll bring it. Please bring it. I have earned anybody I lay in the bed with. I've earned it. My kids are grown, and ain't neither one of them criminals. Okay, you hear me? Ain't neither one of them. So you can say what you want about me. I don't answer to you. I answer to Jesus Christ. I don't answer to man or woman. That's why I protect my womb. That's right, girl. I don't have babies yet. And you know what? That's the one regret. Well, I don't really have any regrets, but I can remember the guy I did, white guy I had the really serious relationship with. Well, that's not true. Yes, it was, because I really loved him. The man I married, who was white, I didn't really love him. I loved him, but I wasn't in love with him. There's a difference. The guy who I uh, really loved, there was all that that magnetism, that can't keep your hands off each other stuff. That's what we had. It's almost dangerous. It's so electrifying. You know, that's what we had. I didn't have that with my husband. No, we didn't have that. We didn't have that. Mm-mm, mm-mm. We didn't have that. But one of the first things he said to me, because even though he was in his 40s when we met, he hadn't had any kids and he wanted a child. He wanted me to have a child. And I told him when I met him, I said, this factory is closed. There's no more mass production here. I'm done. But I wished I could have. I recall a scenario where we thought there was a close call. What I didn't know at that time is that my body was changing. I didn't know because nothing had happened. Everything was normal up to that point. But that's when my body started changing. My body started going into menopause. That's what was happening. Because I didn't have a period. And I had been having one. And then all of a sudden I didn't. So we thought I was pregnant. He couldn't wait to go get a pregnancy test. I wasn't pregnant though. We were kind of sad. Yeah. Because I told him, I said, if we had had a baby, you'd still be paying me child support. He looked at me and said, why do you talk like that? I said, because I know you got a good pension. And see, that would have been his only child. That child would have got everything. Because they have all kind of stocks and bonds and big insurance policies. Black men don't live like that. I like our honesty. I will give the right guy a baby, maybe. Yeah, you know, especially if he has the pedigree to deserve it. If he's a good person, can be a good parent, and especially if he hasn't been careless and foolish and got a lot of drama already out in his world, maybe might not be close to home, but it still can come back to haunt you if you get my drift. So yeah, but again, we were older. When I met him, I was late 30s. I had already had my children. I wasn't thinking about having kids, but I hadn't dismissed it. But I knew I wasn't going to get pregnant because I had gotten my tubes tied. But I didn't tell him that because he don't need to know that. The only time a man needs to know that is if I'm getting ready to marry him. Otherwise, he don't need to know my story. He needs to know what he needs to know. Otherwise, because as my mother would say, you don't need to let your right hand know what the left hand is doing. And if it is not that serious, I do not have to give full disclosure. Because trust me, he's not going to give it to you. You're going to know some things, but you will never know everything. Why do you think you see it on these videos about these women talking about they were married for decades and she didn't know this and she didn't know that? Because they'll say silly stuff like they didn't think they needed to know and it didn't concern them. And you let me decide what I need to know. That's not for you to decide. That's a decision for me to make. Because they certainly want you to share everything. But see, now it's not like when I was coming up. We got everything at our fingertips. It amazes me how I can type my name in and it bring up my life. God, I mean, it tells you everything. It's right there. So when people talk about somebody looking for me, I say, ain't nobody looking for me. I ain't hard to find. So nobody's looking. Nobody has been looking for me. If you want to know about somebody, all you got to do is type it in and it will tell you everything you want to know. I will give the right. Yeah. A little mysterious is and you know what? You are absolutely right. That's why I learned later. When I meet men, I say very little. I let them do all the talking. That's when I discovered they really do want to talk. They do. And I had this conversation recently with somebody who said, but they don't say anything. Well, you can't necessarily be in a hurry if you met somebody and say you're face to face, you're out somewhere and you just met, and maybe this is the first date or maybe the second, I don't know. And he's not talking fast enough for you, but that's not really on him, that's on you. You're in the hurry. I don't say much because I already know that they're eager. I just sit there and I'll ask a question every now and again, but for the most part, I give him the floor. I say very little. Now, if he asks me questions, I will answer to a point. There are very few people who know everything about me, but because I have a channel, a lot more of me is out there because I put it out there. My point is, I want to be control of my story, and I can't if I allow somebody else to tell it. I used to tell my mother that. She always liked talking about me to people. And I told her one day, I said, allow me to tell my story because nobody can tell it better than me. Everybody else put their spin on it, but nobody knows my story better than I know my story because it's my story. She just looked at me like she didn't understand what I meant. Me and my mother were always having those types of boundary conversations. Right. Yeah. So, but we were very close. That's what happens when people are close. There often times you have to set boundaries at different times. In other words, you set boundaries and then you set boundaries. You just continuously setting boundaries because the line's always getting crossed, and you think, well, I thought we had this conversation. And then they'll claim they didn't understand. Oh, I didn't know you meant that, or something. So yeah, no, life is good. I think that's something people should say every day to themselves. Say life is good. Because if you can't say it, you need to ask yourself why. Hi, Keith. How are you? Is that what it's called? Because I know I mentioned it. That was a really good movie. And especially the way it ended. The way she looked around and she assessed her life at that cotillion. She went him the he was at what was he at? He was at a landscaping place or something. I'm not really sure. And before that, she didn't even like dogs because white folks love dogs, and she didn't even like dogs before that. But she ran out of that place after she basically got to go ahead, after she learned some things about her parents. Oh, you know what? You are absolutely right. It is 3 hours earlier in the east. Wow. Wow. Time, you know what? Time really has a way of getting away when you're just talking. It really does. I'm enjoying myself. I certainly hope everybody else is. And I absolutely hope you will come back. And I know I did not. I initially said it, but this is Alice at Wonderland Speaks. And please like, subscribe, and post, comment. Please leave your comments. And you guys who have been there, I'm trying to grow my channel. It's a new channel. So I'm absolutely trying to get my channel monetized. And I want to get to 1,000 subscribers by Christmas, or at the very least by the end of the year. So that's what I'm working towards now. That is why I started the live, uh, doing lives, which I just started a few days ago. So I guess the more I do it, the more I'm enjoying doing it. And you guys will also have to let me know how you feel about it. Uh, yeah, I mean, that's important as well. But I'm off coffee, so it's good. I'm enjoying you. Thanks for the time and experience. uh, Venus, in case you don't know, that is one of the responsibilities of the people that come before you. They're supposed to leave you something. Some people refer to them as jewels, you know, seeds. They're supposed to leave something. You shouldn't have to learn everything firsthand. Every generation discovers something new and different. It's their choice to decide if they're gonna pass it on or if they're just gonna keep it to themselves and let them work it out for themselves. And that's not right. You know, that's not right. This generation, meaning my generation, we have so much to share with your generation. I think the bigger issue is if we're going to be allowed to do it, and that ball would be in your court if we're allowed to do it. Yeah, if we're allowed to do it. But I did say that I wasn't going to stay past a couple of hours, and I don't know where the time went, but it certainly has gone. Please like and subscribe. Click the notification bell, post and share. This live broadcast will be up in the morning. Um, I don't know. I know I said I was going to do it every day, but I think I'm maybe, and again, I said this last night, I'm going to play it by ear as to how often. I think I'm not going to do it on the weekend because I still have my other videos that I put out. These are live, but I still have my others that I still have to do. So I don't want to bombard myself. And I tend to, I'm real good at doing that, overloading myself. And I don't know it till I've done it. I should have a hand on it by now. I've been doing it so long. I do. That's why I can say it. I don't think I'm going to do a live over the weekend. I said think. I could change my mind by tonight, and the next thing you know, I am. I may do it this weekend if for no other reason, but just to test the climate, to see, if people are interested, if they're out there, if they want to hear from me on the weekend, especially since they're hearing from me during the week. They may not want it. I don't know. I don't know. I'll see. But with that said, um, every night I learn something new about my audience. And I couldn't get that any other way. Because I mentioned last night about the difference between, for example, when I do a video, people leave comments. Okay, then I may comment on the comment. But then I ask the question, what is the difference between a podcast and doing it this way? Well, I noticed just off top that with this, you're getting up to the moment. This is in real time. Podcast is real time. So then what is the difference? I don't know. Again, I've done no research on that. I just know that that's also going to be a part of all of this that I'm doing. Just another avenue, but I'm also in the process of setting that up. I've certainly gotten all the equipment. I just have to set everything up. Uh, I don't see that being any different than this. The only difference is it comes with a microphone. Uh, but again, like I said, I don't know. I don't know what the difference is. So if anybody out there knows, or maybe I should just ask you guys to submit some questions. And what do they call those, Q&As? That's what this is. For the most part, this is Q&A. I mean, it's all kind of the same thing, but different. Just another way to do it. which is pretty much like life. There's a lot of ways to do it. It's still life. I can relate everything to a movie. Trust me, I can. At that moment when I said that, it made me think about Tombstone. If you've seen that movie, please leave it in the comments. To me, that is the best movie. Is that the best movie I've ever seen? Well, for a long time, Braveheart was the best for me. But then Mel Gibson acted up. So then then it was Tombstone. That has left a more lasting impression for me. Tombstone. That scene in there where Wyatt Earp is in the TB hospital. Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm still celebrating. That scene where Wyatt is in uh, he's at the hospital visiting Doc Holliday because he's dying of TB, and they're playing cards, and he doesn't want to play because he's dying. He's in pain, and he's crying, and he's telling Wyatt he don't want to play, and he's telling him these last things because he's gonna die, and they're never gonna see each other again. And Wyatt asked him, uh, what does he want? Doc asked him, what do you want with your life? And he says, I just wanna have a good life. Doc says to him, Wyatt, there's no good life. There's just life. And there's just so many profound, excuse me, I'm spitting. Uh, that right there is that's just it. Life is just life. We can call it all sorts of things, but it's just life. And we get the opportunity every day to write our own script. Or at the very least, do some rewriting or editing on it. That's up to us. But anyway, I'm going to go. I have truly, please share, subscribe to my channel. This is Alice at Wonderland Speaks. I really, truly, and Venus, please come back because there's a lot to unpack there with what you have shared. Just so you know, there's a lot with what you have told me. There's a lot to unpack, and I would like an opportunity to unpack some of that with you. So, with that said, for those of you who have been here, who are here, just just here watching, listening, please come back. I hope you'll come back. Hope you'll tune in again. Again, this is Alice at Wonderland Speaks. Please like and subscribe. Good night. Everybody take care and be safe.